Welcome to Unspoken Knowledge. I'm Meg Wilson. In this episode, I sit down with Cristin Browne, West Point graduate, helicopter pilot, triathlete, and of course, powerful leader. From recovering from a devastating injury to leading soldiers in high-stakes missions, Cristin shares what it really means to lead with courage, empathy, and purpose. Let's dive in. Cristin, welcome to SPKN.
Thanks, happy to be here.
So, why don't we start off with just, tell me about Cristin growing up.
So I grew up in New Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl, so on the Jersey Shore.
Oh, I gotta go. See you.
Yeah, no, it's, so honestly, sports family were school. It was always probably the way I would describe my life.
Yeah.
I was the youngest of three children, so I had an older brother and an older sister, and
You were the golden child.
I was the golden child. The best mistake my parents ever made.
There you go.
I like to describe it. It's about 13 months between me and my sister, and we were all in high school at the same time. So 3 kids in 4 years. So,
Wow.
yeah, my parents were crazy.
Busy.
So, yeah, I mean, average American childhood, I would say. House, picket fence.
And you played sports. Was
went
it
to public
only in school?
Yes.
What sports?
I played soccer. Growing up, I was on a traveling soccer team. That was my main sport from age 8 to probably about 13, 14. I also dabbled in gymnastics.
Yep.
And then at a certain point, there was a pivot of, okay, it's either all in on one or the other.
Do you remember when that was? Because if you stopped at 13, it was definitely too early.
To only focus on one?
Yeah, we typically like to say that 12, 13 is when you kind of get to that point where you should be specializing, and that it's better for your overall development, physically, mentally, to play many different sports, or at least more than one.
That makes sense. I think it was before 13 for sure, but then 13, 14, 15, I was doing soccer during the fall season, fall and spring, with my middle school team, and then I also was on the swim team in the summertime. So that was kind of the other divergence, that it was just the summer sport with a part of our local beach club. My sister and I joined the swim team, and that was a good way to both make friends and definitely a different aspect of sport than soccer. I actually stopped doing soccer my freshman year in high school. I made the varsity team primarily because I was fast. I was a good runner, and
you could tell.
Thanks. I don't know that.
Well, there's endurance runners, and then there's sprinters.
Yeah, and I was.
You and I are sprinters.
I was a mid distance. The 800 mile was my. So
I'm very short sprint.
It depends on who you.
Short sprint, take a nap. Got it. Okay.
No, but the cross country coach came out and watched one of my soccer games and was like, "Why are you on the soccer team? You should come out for cross country next year." And I did do track the spring season that same year. So long story short, I ended up recruiting for the cross country team across town, and I went to this camp over the summer and ended up moving high schools in order to go to join the stronger cross country team in my hometown. And so I ended up doing cross country, track and field, all mid distance for the rest of my high school. But to your point on balance, that did a damage to my body. My junior and senior year, I was pretty wrought with injuries, and so I decided not to run in college. I probably could have, but that was not part of my path. Yeah. And that's how I found triathlon, though, in college. Given that I was a swimmer, dabbled in swimming, and had those two sports, I naturally fell into triathlon in college, and that was a really good balance of not having the same wear and tear on my body in one sport.
How'd you like having a sport in college?
Well, for starters, I went to West Point, so everyone's an athlete. Yeah. You either are on club sport, core squad, which is the NCAA sports, or you're a part of your local company team.
Yeah.
So everyone's an athlete. So it was nice to have a sport that was a consistent part of my day, and having that team to go to. Like, we had workouts in the morning. Sometimes, like, we would do swims Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then bikes or runs in the afternoons and evenings. So having that team aspect was a great part of my college experience for sure.
How were your coaches?
How were my coaches? I don't know how to answer that question. I had a few different coaches, given that it was, one, triathlon is a very technical sport in some respects. So we had a military officer who was the officer in charge, who was the coach, but then we also had a civilian that came from the outside that was a more professional, like had some background experience coach, and then we had some technical coaches. So it was a cool diversity of experience to bring all of those different points of view into our training regime. Mm-hmm. But how? I mean, they were good. One of them served as my mentor.
Okay,
even
Why?
afterwards.
How did that come about? What made you? Did you choose him? Did he choose you?
Yeah. So this is actually a story that I've told before on a podcast. So if he's listening again,
awesome.
There we go. So this guy, he was his name is Andy Kane. He was a officer. So he was teaching at the academy, and his part-time job was to come and help out with the triathlon team. He was also an Apache pilot, as was his wife, and that was the path that I wanted to be a pilot after West Point. Uh-huh. And he became my mentor primarily because after I graduated, I was still at the academy due to an injury. I broke my back. And because he had known me as a cadet when I was still there that year after all my classmates had left, it's a whole story in and of itself. But when I got to the point in my rehabilitation process to be able to swim again, we would meet at our lunch hour and we would go for swims in the pool. And afterwards, obviously, we would just chat about what was next and where I was going, and my future was extremely uncertain at that point, but he was always like, we always had conversations not in if you get here or, it was never an if, it was a when, and he was doing everything in his power to get me ready physically, but also mentally and psychologically for that next step in not only my sports career, but my military career as well.
It sounds like that's above and beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like a great coach.
Yeah, he didn't
really
have to do
looking
that.
at the whole athlete
Totally.
is something that we try to teach all our coaches.
Totally.
So that's huge. Now, I'm assuming there was some sort of PT or something that you did. I don't know if you have drill sergeants in the Army. What are they called?
Yeah.
The guys, are they yelling at you still?
So are you talking about physical therapy because of my injury?
No,
or
the physical training.
Oh, yeah. So going through the academy, a lot of that, well, there's the official capacity, there's actually a Department of Physical Education, and the coaches are tangentially a part of that. And then there's also like the regimented training that has to be done in the military. And then there's also a component that the cadets themselves are responsible for some of that physical training as part of your military side.
Yeah. So I'm talking about the military side. What did you have? Because you have pictures, from the movies of the guy yelling at you horrible things, trying to break you down so I can build you back up, right? Yeah. And so what I was trying to get to is how did the coaches when you were doing sports versus the military physical training? What was the differences and the similarities? Because they're both at the academy, they're both there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think because my experience was so entwined, when I was in college, I was at a military academy, so some of those coaches were military officers in and of themselves. But I want to guide that question towards, there was a component of my time at the academy that I was responsible for training up some of the younger cadets in the physical training. I was the drill sergeant, and obviously I had drill sergeants too in earlier times. And I'm thinking about, there was a green suitor, a military NCO, that was my coach, that was helping me to, he was in the background whispering, having been in the force in the real Army for the past 20 years, he was training me off to the side to be the one that was standing in front of the cadets to do the training. So he was in his 40s for context, and I was 19, 20 years old.
Was that your first kind of entrance into leadership?
Oh yeah.
In official capacity?
Yes.
How was that?
Trial by fire.
Seems to be the case.
Trial by fire. I mean,
there's not a lot of formal education about leadership.
Yeah.
So we look to people that taught us or led us. We go, okay, I like that. I don't like that. Mm-hmm. That person really, pissed me off. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Was the person behind you the biggest influence, you think, in that moment?
During that time frame, absolutely. Master Sergeant G, I can't remember his full last name, but it was twofold. One, there was the experiences that were happening in real time, and that was 24/7 for 6 weeks. I think that time period that I was the drill sergeant for a company of cadets. So there was like 110 new cadets, new 17, 18-year-olds that were coming into the academy, and I'm 19, 20 years old.
I was just to say, you're
responsible for them.
Yeah,
and
that's tough.
Not only that, but the way that it's structured, there was some of my peers that I was quote unquote technically responsible for. So they were the squad leaders and the platoon sergeants as a part of that organization. And what Master Sergeant G did, he was in the back of the formation, and he would observe. And he would let me go through it, but then he also served as a sounding board for when, in the evenings or during the quiet moments in the morning, walking into the mess hall, we would have these very non-judgmental conversations, and he would reflect. Debriefs. Oh yeah, he would reflect on his observations, and he would also let me, in the emotionally unregulated late teenager that I was, go. And just be that calming force to allow, that mirror to be held up and learn along the way.
What an amazing experience.
Yeah,
and
totally.
to be able to have that.
I mean, there's a reason why the academies are viewed as leadership laboratories. Yes, they are built to bring future military officers into the world, but really the mission of the academy is to train leaders for the world, America and corporate and nonprofit and the military. It's set up that way, and I think that's a pretty good job.
It's working.
It's working.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned an injury. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So my senior year, I was a part of a military competition team. It's called Sandhurst. So West Point has 30 teams throughout the academy that we train up for this. It's a giant obstacle course. And it's a big thing that's been happening for, I don't know, decades, if not since the beginning of the academy. I think it originally started between Sandhurst in the UK and West Point, and now it's been propagated to lots of ROTC programs. This is all to say several hundred squad-sized teams, so 9 to 10 teams, come to the academy every year, and they compete in this big obstacle course. So it's everything from, the whole thing is like 9 or 10 miles, and you do it with your team, but within that, there's different exercises you have to do: evaluate a casualty, build a one-rope bridge, and then there's an obstacle course within called the HICOC, the high confidence obstacle course, that you're going up and over logs and cargo nets and like you see in the movies. Yeah. And it was the week of the competition, my squad was going through that last training of the high confidence obstacle course, and I fell off of an obstacle called the Dirty Name, backwards. Yep.
The Dirty Name. Well, It definitely was.
Yep, it definitely was. So the rotational force is actually what broke my back. I got my elbows up and over. It was about a 7-8 foot log up in the air. I got my elbows up and over, but I hit so hard and was rotating, I didn't hit high enough that I fell over backwards, and my knees hit my head, and I had a burst fracture in my first lumbar vertebrae.
So is that fused now?
It's not, actually. So this is a kind of a crazy story, and lots of gratitude in my life for coaches, teammates that were there, because obviously my whole team saw me fall and right away knew something was up and made sure that I didn't move and got boarded. But I got to the hospital, and there's a hospital right on the academy campus, and the
makes sense, by the way.
Yeah. And I was quite an anomaly, because the academy, as you can imagine, sees all kinds of rotator cuff injuries, knee injuries, ankle injuries. Very rarely do they see someone with a back injury like I had. And they had to bring in specialists, and what one of the specialists said was they see this injury in young people when it's catastrophic and you're paralyzed, or in older people when they are going through osteoporosis and they're not looking to have a career in sport or military afterwards. So they decided to do a bit of an experiment on me, because I was in this weird middle ground of how much height I'd lost on my vertebrae. So they put me in a cast from my hips to my shoulders, called a TLSO, a thoracic lumbar stabilizer, something. And they said, let's see, if you continue to collapse, then we'll have to fuse. If you don't, then you're good to go, and you could potentially have a career in the military after that. So that's what they did, and I got lucky and had good doctors and physical therapists, and I didn't need a fusion. If I had gotten a fusion, I would have never been able to serve active duty.
Yeah. And in doing so, you are a helicopter pilot.
Yes. So I had to get all kinds of waivers in order to graduate, commission, and then actually go to flight school, which ended up happening about a year after I graduated, because this injury happened 6 weeks before I graduated the academy. So I graduated actually in the cast.
Fun pictures.
Well, it's actually, you look at the pictures and you wouldn't,
can't tell.
You wouldn't know. Yeah, I had my uniforms fitted over the cast, and I'm definitely standing upright, but helped my posture.
What?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Wow. Okay, so what type of helicopters were you flying?
I flew Blackhawks and the Eurocopter, the EC-145, the civilian version, or the LUH, the Lakota. So yeah, those are two aircraft that I got trained up on. Technically, my combat aircraft was the Blackhawk, but I got trained and flew for 2 years the Lakota at the National Training Center at Fort Irwin during the time of the surge. They sent all the Blackhawks overseas and trained up some specific units on the Lakota. So I got that transition. And
you flew mainly, where did you serve most of your?
Where I was never really a secret. Some of the things that I did, I probably shouldn't talk specifics, but I was at Fort Irwin, California, the National Training Center, which is halfway between LA and Vegas, and then another
where nothing is.
There's,
by the way,
nothing there.
You're lucky if there's a gas station there.
Well, talk about culture shock. You know, a Jersey girl that grew up in megalopolis, that the difference between a town is a railroad track going out into the middle of nowhere. That was, well, I spent a year at flight school at Fort Novosel, and now is in Alabama, and that was my first culture shock. Yeah. But then, moving out west.
I bet they loved you there.
In
Alabama.
My first, I drove actually from New York straight to Alabama with my little two-wheel drive SUV, and the first place that I stopped was I don't know, somewhere on the North Carolina, South Carolina border, and I get out of the car, and I must have looked like such a way, I don't even know, but this woman looked me up and down and was like, "You're not from around here, are you?"
Yeah, that's probably not the last time you heard that.
No, that's, but yeah, that was an experience in of itself, but it was a very I was there for, I think, 13, 14 months, and very focused on my training, and it's Fort Rucker, Fort Novosel Flight School. It's the village where all the flight school kids live is very isolated from the outside. It's 70% of the people that live in that town are either flight school students or associated with the flight school. Yeah. So it wasn't like I was living in the community necessarily. Right. But yeah, Fort Irwin was my second assignment. I was there for just under 2 years. in the General Support Battalion. So we did everything. We were a small aircraft detachment of Lakotas, doing everything from VIP missions. So we would fly to the LA airport or Burbank or one of the airports in the LA basin or Vegas to pick up senators, generals that were going to observe operations in what is called
through Vegas.
The Fort Irwin box.
Just saying.
Yeah, they would fly in because that's where the biggest commercial airports were.
Gotcha.
And so we would do that. We would do resupply. We would do OPFOR, so we would be the combat aircraft, or we would do just like general support missions. So I would drop off people to do radio retrans sites just in the middle of nowhere in the desert, drop somebody off to fix the radio tower, and then go pick them up, one skid on the side, and they would hop in. We would do environmental surveys, so we'd have environmentals in the back and make sure that the bombs going off in the range weren't disrupting the wildlife population as they should. So, counting burrows from the back of my aircraft and tortoises and stuff. So that was about 2 years. Okay. Then I went to my first deploying unit, which was out of Fort Bliss in Texas. Okay. And I arrived there, signed my lease for my apartment, and got orders to deploy. So,
of course,
deployed to RC West, Shindand, which is right on the Iranian border. It was a joint Italian-American operation at that time. So I spent a lot of time around Herat and Farah. So I was there for about 8 months. Came home. We actually came home a little bit early because there was a retrograde order at that time. So they were downsizing the American presence. That was 2013. Went back to Fort Rucker for about a year for follow-on training, and then went to Fort Carson, Colorado, which is where I took my command. Deployed out of Fort Carson to RC East this time in 2016. Did about a year there, and then that was the end of my service.
And you stayed in Colorado?
And I stayed in Colorado, yeah. When I got out of the Army, I went to business school. So I went to Boston for 2 years, and then after business school.
Where'd you go to Boston? What school in Boston?
I went to Harvard Business School.
Okay. Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
I went to BC. I was there for 4 years, and I was like, get me out of here.
Yeah, the snow doesn't melt in Boston ever. Once it snows once, and the cold is just a different level of cold.
Yeah, one nice, I grew up in California, don't hate me, but it's hard because it's like, there's 1 month that's actually comfortable. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Instead of all of them.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I like Denver better.
Yeah,
I do.
It's definitely different. Yeah. I say that I'll always be a Jersey girl, like an East Coast girl in my heart, but my soul comes alive when I come out here in the Rocky Mountains.
You ski and
I really like to ski.
Good.
That's something
snowboard or just ski?
I ski. Yeah,
Thank you.
I've only ever been a skier. Yeah, I've actually never put a snowboard on my feet. There's just something magical about skiing, and I realized someone asked me recently about skiing and if I miss flying and how I replace that adrenaline, and it's skiing.
It's a thing.
Skiing
it's a thing
through the trees.
Yep. Yeah, skiing through the trees is good.
Yeah.
If they moved, it'd be a little more exciting, but they don't.
Fair.
A little more challenging, but
fair. So you're a big tree skier too?
Oh yeah. I raced downhill when I was younger.
Oh, fun!
My sports are. I was a tennis player. It was my main sport.
Okay.
And I rode crew at Boston College and did tennis. And
gotcha.
But I always skied, and it was one of those things where, D1 athletes, you're not allowed to ski because it's the highest injury rate ever.
Yep.
So no athlete is allowed to ski unless they're a skier.
Yeah. So you had to become a skier.
So yes, exactly.
Wow.
And I loved it. And now I can't downhill. It is so boring.
Yeah.
I've taken up cross country.
Okay.
And biathlon, skate skiing.
Ooh.
Because I can take my dogs with me.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And in Wyoming, there's a lot of wildlife, so I get to take my camera, and it's a different sport.
Yeah, that's cool.
As you get older, you don't have to go so fast.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I've gotten into ski touring the last couple of years.
Yes.
Which is
I'm trying to change
magical.
to help my dog understand what that is, but I've never had a dumber Labradoodle in my life. I love him. He's he's all heart. All heart. I mean, you'll sit.
He's got the golden retriever, not as much the poodle.
Oh, I mean, just
poodle brain.
Sits down and like if you were to come over and sit down, he's 90 pounds.
Aw.
He'll come and sit on your lap because evidently he's a lap dog. Sweetest thing in the world, but boy, trying to train him. We've been trying for 6 years. He's got fetch, but no drop. He's like, that was fun. I'm going to be over here chewing on this for a while. You just let me know when you need something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, not good. But yes.
How old is he?
Love it. Yeah, he is 7 now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is not a new experience.
No. We're going to spend some time on him, though.
Gotcha.
You'll have to come out, and we'll try ski joring with him. You may end up in the next county, but hey, it'll go fast.
So he actually pulls you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
fun.
He'll pull me. He'll pull me right after the elk that's running down the street. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's the right-left stop that we're working on. Yeah. Those are kind of important.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a whole, I'm just trying to visualize it.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about your first leadership role was on campus there. When did you next have people under you counting on you?
Yeah. Direct reports, I'm trying to think if I had direct reports while I was at NTC. It was during my platoon leader time. I would say I think about really my military career in my 2 combat deployments, because my first I was a platoon leader and my second I was a company commander. So yeah, I was 23, I would say, 23, 24, I think, during that time frame, and I spent that first year and change as a platoon leader when I deployed to Regional Command West.
Did you have someone working with you similarly to the guy whispering to you behind, or were you kind of just jump in the deep end? You're in it now. Hope you got it.
Yeah. So the way the Army structures really its entire hierarchy is especially at the lower command levels, is in a team-based structure. So there's a young lieutenant at the platoon level. So in a Black Hawk company, it's 2 platoon leaders and a company commander, and 5 aircraft under each platoon and the crews of those 5 aircraft. So my coach, per se, was my platoon sergeant. So kind of similar to Master Sergeant G when I was at the academy. Now the platoon sergeant, Sergeant Knight. Wow! I can't, the fact that I can I was picturing his face, and I don't think I've said his name in 2 decades. But the fact that I remember it's just a testament to how much of an influence he had on me. So technically, I was his boss. But psychologically and culturally, he was my coach and mentor. And the Army structures it that way because he's a non-commissioned officer, an NCO, and he's been around for 20 years. He wasn't a pilot, he was a mechanic by trade. Yeah. But he had the knowledge and the experience. He had seen lots of platoon leaders over his years come and go. And his role was to support my growth while there was a hierarchy in place that at the end of the day I was his boss, but there was a leveling of respect that was absolutely there given his experience and knowledge of the craft.
What's the biggest thing you learned from him?
Listen.
We talk about that a lot, and it's not just listening, it's active listening. So listening not just to the words, figuring out what you're going to say next, but listening to the body language, listening to what they're saying. Yeah. So how did you utilize it? The listening.
Yeah. Empathetic listening, which is, yes, active listening. And it's that, your job is not, as a leader, is not to have all of the answers. Yeah. Your job is to...
That's huge, by the way. I don't think a lot of leaders feel that way, especially young ones. They're like, okay, I'm the leader. I got to know everything, right? I think that's a big realization when you're like, oh, I don't need to know everything. Yeah, I think that helps in the self-reflection of your own leadership philosophy.
Yeah. I think it's exactly that. I was in a Blackhawk Company, the platoon leaders and the company commander are pilots. The platoon sergeants and first sergeant are mechanics. So we have different jobs, but we do formulate crews together because they also become the crew chiefs. And so to your point, I didn't have to know how to turn every wrench, but I better have at least understanding
Yes.
of what the job is and what it entails. So I didn't have to know everything, but I did have to care.
Yeah.
And know where to find those answers if the buck did stop with me.
Did the empathy serve as kind of getting to know the people underneath you? Do you call them prospects? Well, I don't know what you call the people underneath you.
Soldiers.
Your platoon. Yes, your soldiers.
Yeah.
I would assume that you are a better leader if you know what motivates each of your individual people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you combine sport and leadership together, which is I know what this podcast is all about, this becomes easier in some ways in the military because one of my favorite things to do is combine those two things. Yeah. And that's how you get to know people. So for
combine what two things?
Sport and leadership together. For example,
yes.
Going for runs. So I was able to do much more as a company commander, but I probably did a little bit as a platoon leader. When somebody was having a hard time, you walk and talk, or throw a baseball, or throw a frisbee. And activating movement with some of these deep conversations was very helpful. So it was either that on the sports side, or one of my favorite ways to get to know my soldiers was to hop up on the aircraft and take a wrench and start moving something around and be like, all right, what nut can I work on and not ruin anything? But just by the activity,
don't unscrew something it needs to be screwed.
Right, exactly. And afterwards, I got to step off, and they're like, all right, the man was touching that, so let's make sure we look at that again. But they appreciated the fact that I was willing to roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty in what they were working on, and that also then opened them up. And those were the times that they were having the conversations about what they really cared about, what was going on in their lives outside of turning wrenches and standing in formation.
That is such a great insight on your part. We do that. So we have a lot of ADHD kids in sports.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the same in the military?
There's a lot of ADHD officers in the military. In fact, I have to say, I went to this West Point Entrepreneurial Conference a few months back, and there was a woman who did a briefing on using ADHD as your superpower because her point of view was there's so many ADHD people in...
The box has gotten really small to not be.
Correct, yeah.
I don't think anyone fits in the box anymore. Really.
Fair.
I mean, I can't go down every rabbit hole, but boy, I got a rabbit hole there too. I'm ADHD as well, but it definitely... as parents, they tell us, do Lego with your kids, and they talk to you, especially the boys. It's really good with the boys. They like focusing on something else because it's not actually sharing. There's no feelings happening. We're working on it's quite amusing.
Yep.
But it works beautifully.
It does. It does.
And I know you and I talked a little bit off camera that with the men that I interviewed in this series just before you, we talked about, to build a team and that unity, they have to be inches from death. And of course I'm like, no, coaches, do not put your athletes inches from death. That's not going to work. What is it that will bind the unity of a unit together without doing that?
Yeah. And
so we kind of brainstormed a little bit about that. And I loved their idea of build a fence. Because it's that same
activity
thing that we're talking about.
Yep.
And my favorite was definitely kind of go to a community near you that needs help and help out as a team.
Yep.
Build houses, fix decks for the elderly. I mean, do something above you.
Yep.
And it's interesting, I just made that connection as you were talking about this between those two activities. And that's right.
Yeah.
You can build that unity when you're doing something.
Yep, that shared sense of purpose and service. And we had this, I love this story, so I want to tell it. We had this tradition when I was a company commander that of this game called lacrosse. And what it was a mix of ultimate frisbee and lacrosse.
Awesome.
And I can't take credit for inventing this game. It was the commander before me who built out the unit basically from scratch and brought all of these people together. And I had the unique privilege to take that unit over when it was fully formed and train them up to go to that deployment to Afghanistan. Yeah. And so during the time that they didn't have a lot of missions going on, they had to find ways to build the team and bond. So during that period, they came up with this sport, lacrosse. And we'd never played it on the military installation. There was this field that only we knew about that we would go to. And we had to hop the fence. You made me think of it when you said build a fence. We had to hop the fence. We probably shouldn't have been doing it, but we did. And we did it like every other Friday in civilian clothes, which was another so we got to take off our uniforms. It was on a Friday, and we would go off and we would play lacrosse. And the guys loved it. And one of the most severe leadership challenges that I had while I was in command was we lost an aircraft. Training actually out in the mountains of Colorado. Thankfully, everyone did survive, but there were some pretty catastrophic injuries as a result. And it was very soon before we deployed. And so it was like that week or the week before it was time to pack up the aircraft and send them overseas so we could deploy. So I was in this situation as the leader of this company that I had to rally the team back together to focus on the mission at hand while also acknowledging the really tragic thing that had happened to our teammates. And the day after the crash, I was like, how do I show up to the organization the next day and rally them to get what we need to do done? And I took him to the Crosby Field. That morning, that next morning, I just said, okay, everybody meet me at the Crosby Field at 07 a.m. And I said nothing. We just went on the field and we played until people couldn't walk anymore. I think it was like 2.5, I don't remember how long, it was probably 2 hours. And everyone's just sweating, and finally some levity was coming back. And I took everybody out in the bleachers and then said my piece. Yeah. And there's also a tradition of donuts. There's this donut place everybody loves. So everybody sweated at Crosby and
always work.
Gave out donuts and then said, here's what happened, because obviously I was the one that was in the hospital and people didn't know the details of our teammates, and they didn't know what kind of next steps were. And I was able to get everybody together in a frame of mind after they had let out all of their endorphins and wiggles and everything by playing the Crosby, and it really changed the tide of the organization. Everybody was kind of like, okay, let's do this. We're going to push forward, and I think that was a very helpful kind of synthesis after that really tragic event.
It's really interesting for me to hear is that you kind of did, remember when you had your injury and you had someone take you to swim and talk to you about what was next. And it's interesting that you called upon that because it was a positive in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how our leaders change us. And that's why I do what I do, is that I think everyone should have that opportunity to have a coach that cares enough to give you that lesson. Because look at how you were able to use that lesson that he gave you.
That's a great reflection. Yeah, that's great.
That's phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you were able to do that for the guys that were under you. Let's switch gears a little bit. How is it being a woman leader in the military? And can you say?
Yeah, this is a very hot topic right now.
Yeah.
And I am energized, activated, angered, confused, sad in ways that I wasn't expecting. In particular in the last 96 hours, given when we're filming this. And
it's January 2025.
Yeah. So I have been very reflective about some of my experiences. I've been out of the military now for almost as long as I was in, which is wild to think about. Yeah. But, I think the Academy did a phenomenal job of just straight integration. Mm-hmm. I never felt othered at the Academy. In a lot of times I was the only woman in the class or one of two, but the way that everybody had the same uniforms, my experience at the Academy, I never felt like I was othered for being a woman. That was not the case in the active Army. Anytime you're an other, it doesn't matter if you're the only woman in the room, if you're the only minority in the room, if you're the only LGBTQI plus in the room. You represent not just you, but your entire other group. And it's complicated. Those dynamics are complicated. And I understand that there's a sense of sameness and regiment that needs to exist in some scenarios. It's a lot harder to bring this otherness into the mainstream. But my experiences were, when that work is done, everyone is better off for it. So I think my summary of experiences was, yes, oftentimes I was othered, or I felt like an other. And for every one of those experiences, I also had people that were absolutely in my corner who advocated. And I would say it was probably 15% on either side of those, being othered, and then people who were really advocating. And then what does that leave us? 70% in the middle?
Yeah.
That just wanted me to do my fucking job.
Yeah.
Which is all I ever wanted.
That's what I have found so frustrating is I have found when I go to talk to bunches of coaches, especially if their majority are male, which is usually the case, we're getting closer to almost being equal-ish as far as numbers. But when I come in, it doesn't matter what my education is. It doesn't matter what my expertise is. It doesn't matter whether I played, professional tennis or professional football. Doesn't matter. I am a woman speaking to these guys, and how could I possibly know anything? And it's really funny, when I first started coaching my son's soccer team, U6, right? I mean, just get them going in the right direction that's the goal. I had a dad come up to me and ask me straight out, why are you coaching instead of your husband? And I answered, because my husband doesn't know anything about soccer.
That sounds very logical.
That's kind of a stupid question.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I start and I have to spend 20 minutes explaining why you should pay attention to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, maybe you shouldn't pay attention to what I'm saying. I don't know. But hear what I'm saying first.
Yep.
Not because I'm up there as a woman. And I think about that 20 minutes. What can I do with that 20 minutes if I didn't have to explain myself?
Yep.
What I could affect, what we could as a group impact these kids that are growing up. And instead, I can't do my job because I have to explain to you why I'm even standing in the room.
Yep. I can totally empathize with that. And I think the other thing that we were talking a little bit when we were off camera, that there's no such thing as the average female soldier.
Yeah.
Because of that otherness, you're either extremely high caliber, you have to be perfect in everything that you do, or if you fall one rung on the ladder, you're a shitbag. And so there was this feeling of having to be perfect and uphold the absoluteness of excellence at all times, that intellectual, psychological, emotional burden is not the same for the men.
Yeah.
And that has an impact, and that wears on you, that now, like I said, I've been out for as long as I've been in, that I now look back and I say, and I wish for our women going through in the future that eventually wears away, because that is detrimental to our fighting force, not positive. So it's going to be okay.
Yeah, well, the good news is we don't have to figure out all the problems, like where women, where they're going to be on a submarine. I don't even want to think about that. I think locker rooms are gross. Men's locker rooms, I don't want to be in a tube with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a reason, ladies' bathrooms are nicer. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
No?
I had field exercises that we didn't have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
So I slept in a tent with my platoon sergeant, first sergeant, and male squad leaders. There was like 6 of us in the tent, and you just throw the blanket over and you do what you have to do.
Right.
And
you
make
it
work.
When we normalize it, they feel more comfortable in normalizing it.
Yes.
That's what I find.
Don't make it a big deal, and it's not a big deal. We're all here for the same reason we want to do our job.
Yeah.
Full stop.
They can call it out, but if you keep moving, I feel that it brings us all on the same level anyway.
Full stop.
And that's how it should be.
I put my pants on one leg at a time, just like you.
Yeah. What do you think that coaches could learn most from your experience in leadership during your service and before and after?
Yeah. I think back to the tactics versus the strategy, and then in all of it, the people. So if I think about a good sports coach, yes, there's an element of tactics that need to be understood, but you don't have to be the best ball juggler or the best tennis server in order to be a great coach. But you should know how to get those resources if they're needed in your organization to get your unit to the tactical level that they need to be, or get your team to have the tactical skill sets to be great athletes. Your job is more to focus on the 100-meter target, the 300-meter target of the strategy of what matters to this organization to be a winning team, what partnerships do we need to make, what tournaments do we need to go to in order to get them to the level, and what is that level that we're even trying to get to? What is the goal at the end of the day? So I think that's where a coach really comes into up-leveling tactics and thinking about strategy, spending a lot of their time. And then again, the people along the way, who's on your team, who are the players in the field, how can you up-level those players if necessary, or change the players on the field if those that are on the field don't meet what that strategy is. So one of my favorite terms that I've learned in some recent experiences in the corporate world is a coach's job is you either have to change the people or you have to change the people. If that makes sense. So the people that you have, or switch out the people in order to get the people that you need on the field. And that's really the coach's role, not to be the people on the field, but to understand them in such a way to bring them together so that the sum of the parts is greater than each of the individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks.
I appreciate you coming and sharing your stories with us.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here at SPKN. We hope today's conversation has inspired you to lead with purpose, integrity, and resilience. Make sure to check out all our original series at spknmedia.org. See you next time.